thank you very much for your time and to be with us a little bit and answer a couple of questions about your film. We know that you, as a director, are preoccupied with the subject of humanity crisis, as they are common in your films. What made you do a documentary about the mass immigration from Venezuela to Brazil?
It's not she. It's Natalia's fault. She contacted me because I was programming a new project with a big organization. It started with a screening of my previous movie, Exodus, in London. I met a guy and he proposed to work with his organization. And then that's how Natalia got my contact, and she sent me a mail, and we started to discuss about the different projects that I had and wanted to do. And at one time, she just spoke about this situation in Brazil and Venezuelan coming in. And we finally decided to completely abandon the other projects to get on this one. So it came from our discussions together.
And it was a priority from you from the start, from the very first idea, since Natalia contacted you?
It's more because the story she told me was really intriguing, but she may be better to tell about this because she was at the very beginning of the story, and when she met someone in Brazil that told to her what's happening, and so
Yes.
Natalia.
Bernardo, I can explain my interest because I am graduated in international relations and I did volunteering for migration and in many places, including in Europe. I studied Mediterranean dialogue and in many countries in Europe. So I met the job of Fabien by this because he had a film with the MSF, not with the MSF, with the, can you remember the name of the
Aquarius, with SS
Aquarius, yeah. And I also made the internship with MSF, so I kind of knew his work, and I was very interested in making films, not only volunteering. So I found his work, and I found he had this new project and with an NGO in London. And then we discussed, we were thinking about going to Asia and other places. And I realized that what was going on in Venezuela at the time was not being talked about it in the news, was very low profile. Nobody was talking about it. And this was in January, like 6 months or like 8 months before we actually did the movie. And yes, then I shared with Fabien, we discussed, he was also very intrigued, and for sure I was a better help for him in Latin America and Venezuela than in Asia. So we decided to do it about it.
Regarding the structure of the narrative, why did you divide the film in 3 different parts?
The shape of the movie came from a previous script. Before we went and traveling, we knew before to start to film that we will go in Boa Vista and Pacaraima, in Rio de Janeiro, and in Fortaleza. We knew that was this triangle in Brazil that covers almost a big part of the country. And we knew that we wanted to separate different stage or set of this traveling for Venezuelan because it represents different step for them to be integrated in the country. And during the travel, so the first idea of dividing in 3 parts was this 3 step. But after that, by mixing during the editing, the different speech and the different temporality was more interesting and more there was more rhythms in this one. So it's not locations that divide the movie in three parts, but this is more about each part evoke a different mentality step for the Venezuelan. There is a it's 2 years ago. I have to remember.
Yes.
But yeah, this is different stage for them to pass to be integrated.
Okay, interesting. So so you had this idea of the locations, and then during the film, when you were filming, you decided to compound according to their discourses and stories.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So when you were choosing to where you put the camera, when you were in that decision process, what were you trying to capture?
Yes, for this movie, I had one wish that was because I was not, but there is a lot of restraint that ordinate my choices every time, and especially for this movie was the language. Because even if I was always with Natalia, I was not able to speak in Portuguese, so I was not able to communicate correctly with people that I want to film or interview. So the aim was to play with Natalia as an interviewer. So she is making interviews and I'm making the shots all around. And we kept for the movie we kept like a distance from people from the beginning. The camera is not showing us, we kindly see Natalia sometimes or but not myself.
Yes,
but,
I noticed that sometimes.
Yeah, but from the beginning I wanted to keep this distance, and after that all along the movie in the third part we can even see myself playing with Camilla, the little girl in the airport. So the triangulation with the documentary start to be reversed, or the spectator can integrate the camera as an object that is another subject than the filmer. But yeah, the restraint was more about the language, I think, from the beginning. So I was not integrating myself in the movie as I can do later in other movies.
The documentary talks about the humanitarian organizations, including positive and also negative commentaries about their work. One of the interviews points out that ONU only talks, however, doesn't really act. So this was like in the first part of the film. What led you to include this commentary in your movie?
So what let me include this without, because in the documentaries, in this film, there is different point of views on ACNUR and UNHCR too. There is positive and negative, and even on Venezuelan situation, there is different point of views, and I didn't. We just choose to expose them all. I think the guy who says who criticized the ONU action in Venezuela, he's stuck on the border and is really hungry.
Really
And I can this is his point of view. I can't just let it. I don't know, Natalia, if you have an idea about that too. But we wanted to expose all the point of view, and there is no political opinion obvious from us in the movie. We didn't take position because it was not the aim of the movie to make a political movie, but it was more about the experience of people and to bring to the question of art, and with the statues at the end, but bring completely another reading of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, I think our main idea was to expose what was going on. As Fabien said, many opinions were in conflict there. We wanted to show everything without trying to make it like answers numbers, but just to show how this was affecting everyone and how people had these different positions and stuff. Also for the humanitarian aid, I think one point that I don't know if you're going to make questions about it further, but I think it's nice to notice that we are trying to talk about different alternatives for receiving people, how this can be organized, how can this be given in a more human way. And this is not, how can I say, this doesn't exclude any issue or problems or lack of, I don't know, frustration from the refugees. I think, yeah, we're just trying to show what was going on, and it's all the complexity of it.
Yes, that was very interesting.
If I may,
yeah.
A question to Natalia. When you were making those interviews, what were your main feelings about what they were saying?
I think I can say what I felt from it, what I could absorb from it. And for me, what's the feeling that all those lives were being interrupted. They were not people who wanted to be away or just changing their life so abruptly. And what I really felt was that I hoped that the situation here was going to enable them to restart their life. I don't remember who said this, but it's something that really stick to my mind. Someone who said that you need to be brave to leave your country. And I am someone who always wanted to leave. It was always super easy to just leave anywhere, but it's such a different situation where you're forced to leave. You're not given a choice, that they completely changed their lives. They leave their family and they didn't want to leave their family. They leave their jobs. They leave their studies to restart. It seems close, but it's not that close. It's another language. It's another country. It's away from the plans for their lives. So I don't know. I just felt really sad that I felt this interruption for their lives, but also really eager to and hopeful that they can have this restart in Brazil in the best way possible, and just talk about it, make it seen. I don't.
Yes, I mean, for me, it was really good to see this documentary because I was aware of the crisis in Venezuela. But we don't, I mean, I don't know, it doesn't reach here in Europe. They don't talk
the full
that much
extent
in the news. And this documentary was really interesting for me to know what the government also in Brazil, I mean, the army also has that organization receiving the refugees, also Caritas, and it was, I mean, it was a really good and interesting documentary also. So it's,
I remember just one comment. Yeah. I remember that Fabien was super interested when he was always hearing the people from the military, the ones that were following us. He was hearing him calling them brothers and brothers and brothers, and he was really, it caught his attention, you know, like, is he calling them brothers? Like, I guess that this is not common in the other films he made about migration and refugees. And for me, it was very interesting to make this film with Fabien because he had all this previous experience with also with migration in Europe, and he could notice this really different relationship with people, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Also,
that comes from the first question too. When you asked why we've decided to make this movie. I was really interested by this situation because Natalia told me that the army was involved in this on this way, and it was the contrary of European organization with Frontex that I have been confronting before in the Mediterranean Sea, and so I wanted to see what could motivate a country which is in worst economical, political, social conditions than Europe. What motivated to do something better in a better way,
definitely.
And And that's what I wanted to see. And the shape of the movie come from that. It was more like a travel from us, even if we don't see us traveling, because we didn't want to make a diary or something, or a journal. And the speech of people that we met, because it's there is not a lot of how can I say it, people that are really playing with us or playing a role. It's most of them people that we met on the travel. We wanted to give her a place to speak in a way that they don't have in other way. And I wanted to see if the army was really acting in this way. Like, yes. I was completely amazed that if obviously all their army guys were calling Venezuelan brothers. Like, so it's unexpected for me too.
Yeah. Even the sergeant, I don't know if he's a sergeant, the one you interview, he was saying that in Europe we close our borders, and there they just open their arms to receive the refugees, and I was really impressed with that. It was really how the army organized a lot of people to receive, and it was really positive, and I had no idea, so it's really important, this documentary.
It was the aim to show it in Europe after Exodus. My previous movie was showing the action of SOS Mediterranean and the MSF and other organizations that try to act in or to help in Mediterranean Sea, and they are criminalized by the States and Europe. And I wanted to show this one, like, yeah, of course, even if Brazil is Brazil.
So now the last third of the movie is very centered on the immigrants that work as living statues. And I want to know why this choice. Is there some specific symbolism behind it that you want to convey?
Yeah, I think so. That came from just watching them and learning from the ground. When we met people, we discovered that all the statues that we saw in the street were Venezuelan. And Nachi told me at this time that she didn't saw much of them before, or knew much of them before. And the way they use the statue is amazing. Like, it's a way to earn money without losing their pride and making art in a way. And they are really proud of this. I know many people could call them like hobo or things like that, but they don't think or don't see themselves as like that. They see them like artists, and they speak about this like an art. And they change of clothes and costumes a lot of time. And when they explained us that it happened a lot of time that when someone changes costume, he gives the ancient one to another one that just arrived in Brazil, so we can use it to just earn some money and don't starve. That's just amazing way to travel and earn money with, I don't know, with. And yeah, of course, I'm always interested by how art, although as a filmmaker and as a plastician, how art is involved in social issues and how it can help to what culture and the education can do on a social level. And yeah, it was extraordinary to discover what they were doing with that, like and it transmit it to each other to survive.
Natalia, your general opinion about
I was going to mention what Fabien just left at the last moment, this chain, because I think it's really interesting how Luz and Tony, they were artists in Venezuela. They worked with this, and their first idea was to travel, like since ever, and they got the money and they decided to travel. Also because of the crisis, it was another reason for them to travel at that time, but they already thought of this before. And they didn't want to be seen as refugees. They never put it like cards saying, "Hey, I'm from Venezuela" on the front, like the opposite. They didn't want it. They thought that they shouldn't use it because it was not a political thing. It was their will to travel and just a dream of an artist going and having this life. But at the same time, it's impossible to be, I think, separate from the context and also from everything that was going on in this chain of meeting Venezuelans on their way and passing this knowledge and showing them this possibility to do arts to survive without having to know, like breaking this barrier of the language, breaking of the formality of getting a job. And at the same time, the others, they fell in love with it. Like some of them are still doing it and they never thought of it before. And I think it's really interesting to create this solidarity chain and passing this possibility because of the crisis, but still.
Yeah, thanks. When I was watching the movie and that part of the statues, I was really impressed, like they were standing there, and they have just an intense story behind that, what they had to go through to be there. And, people are just there taking pictures with them. And I was just like, oh my God, it's really intense. And it was interesting that you pictured this reality. It was really interesting.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so next question. With the arrival of the COVID-19 crisis, to what extent the situation has worsened today? Like, how is the situation today? Because the movie it has 3 years already, and with the COVID-19 crisis,
and it was just before Bolsonaro's elections too. So I think it's more a question for Nachi, who's living there.
It's worst. It's worst. It's really worst. But nothing really in the legal way. Nothing changed. Like the law is the same. They arrive. They have the right to work. They have help from all the Operação Colhida, what we filmed. It's still working, and there are still people coming. Brazil didn't close the borders, so the borders were closed because of COVID, but not because of Brazil. So people were still coming, and they were putting all the security measures for COVID, and they were still being resettled to other parts of Brazil, getting financial aid from the government, from the ACNUR. But it's worse. What they go through here, it's like the same issues of Brazilians, but worse. Because since you're from other country, you don't know the language, it's always harder for them to get a job and to just find a stable life. And there are cases of, I just read the news before this talk, and I imagine it was worse, but there are cases of slave. It's a very precarious works that were given to migrants and by third companies working for Heineken, for Ambev. So this was out not long ago. And yeah, it's a showcase, I think, of what happens when these people are not given the same opportunities to get a job and restart their lives.
Ines, I know you really wanted to.
I want the last question. Yeah.
To ask the last question.
Yeah.
So
near the end of the film, one of the interviews claims that necessity is the mother of all arts. Here, necessity. So he uses this word in the concept of surviving. For you, is directing a necessity?
Mm-hmm. It's exactly the answer to the previous question for me. It's we put that as a parallel between art and obviously their situation, which is yeah, that's what I do for a living, and I would not make anything else. And even for this movie, we just decided to organize everything ourselves. We didn't have any production style or so we just made it because we needed to make it, and we traveled with what we and it just stopped because we didn't have enough money for the rest. So it's a picture of a time in Brazil of this situation, more than we were not able to follow someone during months or years to be more emotional, or so we decided to that I think this sentence, and that's why it's edited and put at the end, because it's came back to what I've said at the beginning. Everything in art is a response to restraint, and it can express life or what we think of life. And I don't know, Nachis, if you have something else to say.
Yes, Natal, do you think that you can do more with less?
More with less?
Yes, can you do more with less? It was one of the intents here, because it didn't have much production or post-production.
Okay. Yeah, I think it opens other ways. I think I just did the last movie I made. I did during COVID inside my house. I canceled all the interviews, and it just create another movie. It's just not the same movie. I think you can do it with money or without money. It will just be different movies. And the important thing is, as Fabien said, that I think that you pay attention and that you talk to people and you film and you show it and you discuss it, and like all the discussion for me, it's more important. And then the way you're gonna film it, it depends if you have the ways or not, but it's not the main. For me, it's not the main condition to make a movie.
So, Fabien, Natalia, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your film.
Thank you. This is really.
Thank you.
Thank you for selecting the movie and showing it in Lisbon.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a good day and see you next time.
Good luck.
You too.
And
Bye.
have a
Thank
nice
you.
festival with everyone
Obrigada.
crying.
Obrigada.
Obrigada.
Adeus.
Ciao.